Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user HovercraftJust5145. Am I the a-hole for not making my son give rides to his stepsister to and from school? I, 45 male, share 3 kids with my ex, 16 male, 14 male, and 11 female. We divorced 10 years ago. My ex, D, remarried 8 years ago and has another bio daughter, 7 female, and a stepdaughter, 14 female. My kids have never really gotten along with their stepsister. She pretty much gets whatever she wants. She has always had her own room and bathroom at their mom's house. My daughter had to share with her brothers. She does not do chores and expects my kids to do whatever she asks them to do. Things have been really bad the last 2 years, and a little over a year ago, my oldest came to live with me full time. A few months later, his brother followed. My oldest turned 16 back in December. I bought a car for him. My only request was that he would take his brother and sister, my kids, to school, which he agreed to do. My son and their stepsister go to the same school. Not long after I gave him the car, D started asking that my son take his stepsister to and from school. My ex's neighborhood is on the route to school from my house. He refused. My ex tried to make him do it. I refused. Well, last month we got a winter storm come in. The first round was not supposed to be bad, so there was school. But quickly, the weather got worse than predicted, so the school let out early. My sons were walking to the car with a friend to head to my house. Their stepsister was standing near the car with a friend and was on her phone. She told my son, "Mom says she cannot come get us, so we need to ride with you." My son refused. She handed my son the phone and my ex was on the line. She demanded that my son give his stepsister and her friend a ride. She was across town getting groceries before the storm got worse. He refused. His stepsister started yelling at him. He ignored her and they got in the car to leave. She and her friend got in front of the car so he couldn't move. He honked his horn and told them to get the F out of the way. They eventually did, and my son left her and her friend at the school. A teacher saw the incident, so we were called by the administration about it. We told them what happened. My sons were not in trouble, but they said, "We need to work out this family conflict." Afterwards, my ex and her husband tried to talk to me and blamed me. I told them, "It isn't my fault you raised an entitled brat who no one likes. Y'all have enabled her behavior for years. I have tried to get y'all to address it, but I am done. Until you stop being a worthless mother and stepdad, I do not want to hear crap from either of you. D, your own sons despise you. That is all on you." Then we left. I have not spoken to my ex since. I do feel bad for my daughter because tensions have been high at my ex's house and she is there half the time. Am I the a-hole? No, OP, you're not the a-hole. Your son isn't a chauffeur and has every right to say no, especially to someone who's been a long-term source of stress. He wasn't cruel or unsafe. He simply refused a last-minute demand. D, pushing this, even after your sons moved out to escape the situation, is just more enabling. Your response to D and her husband was harsh, but absolutely honest. They've ignored red flags for years and are now trying to guilt your son into picking up the slack. You stood up for your kids when no one else would. The only tricky part is your daughter being caught in the crossfire. Keep supporting her and, if needed, revisit her living arrangements to ensure she's not paying for everyone else's bad decisions. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Miami Lawyer says, "Not the a-hole. Sounds like they've spent years cultivating a bad relationship between the kids and want to blame you. That is on them. They are on the effing around and finding out stage of parenting. I do family law and seen this plenty." Abject Jump 9617 says, "Check in with your daughter regularly to make sure they are not treating her poorly over there or that her a-hole stepsister is not bullying her or anything." And Dopey responds, I do. I luckily take her to school every day, even on my ex's time, so I get to check in on how she's doing when she's with my ex. Past Comprehensive 425 says, not the a-hole. Your ex has already lost 2 out of 3 kids and is probably about to lose the third because she is picking her husband over her kids. Your ex did not buy the car, is not paying for gas or maintenance or even the insurance on the car. Yet she wanted your son to spend more time on the road because your ex couldn't get her act together. Heaven knows where the friend lived. The stepsister is a brat and is being set up for failure. Her college roommates will dislike her and her future employers will wonder what is wrong with her. Mary Moose says, not the a-hole. In some states, drivers under 18 cannot take non-relatives as passengers in their cars. Not sure where you live, but I know it's like that where I live, so it might have been permissible for your son to take his stepsister, but not her friend. Even if your son could have non-family passengers in his car, it's totally up to you whether to allow your son to transport stepsister or anyone else for that matter. In your shoes and with the facts presented, I would not have agreed to your son giving his stepsister and her friend a ride. Your ex's stepdaughter is not your responsibility. Your ex could have ordered an Uber for her and her friend or made other arrangements. And AJ Alva says, not the a-hole. Your ex created a situation where your son was going to feel guilted or forced into giving his stepsister a ride. There is no reason she could get home the same way she does every other day unless that's D, who purposely went across town during a storm. As for the school, I would make it very clear that the family conflict is not yours and you do not want them getting involved and trying to force some kind of relationship between these kids. It's also insane to think that the school was being closed because of how bad the weather was, but the solution was for a 16-year-old to be carpooling around multiple children. Additional information from OP's comments. My ex didn't pay for the car I gave my son. Not the purchase, not the insurance, not a drop of gas. She hasn't supported him in over a year, so she doesn't get to dictate who rides in that car. That decision rests with my son. He agreed to take his brother and sister to school, and that's the only obligation I asked of him. He doesn't owe his stepsister or a random friend a ride. If he doesn't feel comfortable having someone in the car, that's the end of it. And frankly, I back him 100%. People have asked if he left her stranded. No, the school was open. Students without rides were instructed to wait in the cafeteria. Teachers and staff stayed until everyone was picked up. She wasn't abandoned, she was inconvenienced. The reality is plenty of 14-year-olds were waiting for rides, so unless we're expecting my kid to start driving half the school home, this isn't some massive injustice. Now, my daughter, she was with me when that happened. She splits time between homes, and yes, she's very close to her little sister. They're inseparable when she's at her mom's. I've asked her more than once if she wants to live with me full time, and she always says no, because she doesn't want to be away from her sister. I respect that. But I also made it clear, the second she tells me otherwise, I'll make that happen. As for my ex, she's made her choices. She's prioritized one child over the others time and again. She's ignored the harm that favoritism causes. The final straw for my oldest was when the stepsister ripped up a handwritten cookbook that his grandmother, my ex's own mom, gave him before going to hospice. She never apologized. My ex never addressed it. Look, I'm not trying to win anything here. I just want my kids to have a parent who actually shows up for them. And if she won't be that parent, then I will, every time. Well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that his ex-wife basically gave up her kids for the stepdaughter. And with additional information from OP, we definitely get that too. So now let's move on to the first of 2 updates to see what happened next. Answers to common questions. 1. Looks like, at least until June 5th, it would be illegal for my son to take his stepsister and her friend home. He can take 1 passenger or unlimited number of passengers as long as they are in the same household. He generally did not drive friends around. On this occasion, he did drive a friend around, which was illegal. You will not be doing that until June. On June 5th, he is 16 and a half and the restriction is lifted. 2. I am not going for full custody for my daughter because she is highly attached to her little sister and would be sad to not see her every other week. But I take my daughter to and from school every day. It is across the street from my office. While things are tense at my ex's, it does not appear that she is being treated any differently than before. And 3, there are no buses available for my kids and their stepsister, who are there on an inter-district transfer. Now the update. A little over a week ago, my ex reached out to try and see what we could compromise on about the situation. I told her there was nothing to compromise about. I explained that until June, he legally cannot take her anyways. I do not want her in the car, and our son does not want her in the car. My ex said it simply is not doable for her to take her or her dad to take her to school every day. If our son could take her on Tuesdays, they could do the other days. I told her no. This Tuesday, their stepsister demanded a ride. My son told her no, and she pushed him. A teacher saw it, and she is facing possible in-school suspension. Disciplinary issues like this could compromise her inter-district transfer. That is the update. Okay, then let's not waste any time and move on to the final update to see how this story ends. Contrary to popular belief, my son's car was not keyed or anything like that. After the incident in the update, my sons and their stepsister ignored each other at school. Since that incident, my ex has tried to act sweet and kind whenever we've interacted. All involved schools let out last week for summer. On Monday, I had a meeting run long and couldn't drop my daughter off at my ex's like I usually do, so I had my son handle it. When he got there, my ex pulled him aside and asked if she paid him, would he be willing to take his stepsister to and from school in the fall. What's happening in the background is that she recently switched to a shift that pays more, but it means she can't handle the pickup anymore. Her husband's been leaving work to get his daughter, but now it's starting to cause issues at his job. My son told her no and came home. And just to be clear, this isn't a new issue. It didn't start when my son got the car. It started during that snowstorm months after the fact. Before that, she never even asked. He's made this decision every time. I haven't pushed him on it. In fact, he rarely even drives his sister to school in practice. I usually do it myself. He has to be available too, sure, but most days it's on me. That night, my ex called and asked if I'd be interested in joint family therapy with her and our 3 kids. I told her before that can happen, she, her husband, and her stepdaughter need to give a full and sincere apology to our kids for how they've been treated over the years. Her response was, I don't know if I can make that happen. I said, well, that's what needs to happen before I'd even consider your proposal. My kids and I already do individual therapy, and no, I don't see why therapy should be a prerequisite for some apology, especially when neither her husband nor stepdaughter would even be in the sessions. This morning, she forwarded me some texts from one of her friends who happens to teach at the high school her stepdaughter would have to attend if she switches schools. The teacher told her that spots are filling up fast in the few honors AP courses sophomores can take, so if the stepdaughter wants in, they need to enroll now. That's when my ex hit me with, I'm desperate. I want her to stay where she is. That's only possible if our son agrees to take her. But if I need to switch schools for her, I need to know now. I told her straight, this ain't got crap to do with our kids, and the fact that you're bending yourself into pretzels for your stepdaughter is the problem, because you don't do that crap for our kids. Do not contact me unless it's about our kids. And let's get this straight. I care about all 5 of these kids. I still buy birthday and Christmas gifts for her youngest daughter. I took her and my daughter to the Lilo and Stitch movie just a couple of weeks ago. Even the stepsister? I care in my own way. I was her once. I know what it's like to need someone to stop coddling and finally set a boundary. That's what my son is doing, and frankly, that's good for both of them. He deserves peace. He deserves a safe space. He doesn't need to sit in a car with someone who destroyed his late grandmother's cookbook and then laughed at him for crying. Someone who's never even apologized. Someone who said she was glad she did it. And no, my son isn't being spiteful. That's not what this is. He's enforcing a boundary, one that his mother should have taught her stepdaughter to respect a long time ago. So no, I'm not faultless, but I'm not wrong here either. That is the update. Well, it'll be good for you for calling your wife out once again. She's all worried about her stepdaughter and the high school and getting you in all that mess and your son in that mess when it has nothing to do with you or your kids. So good for you for stopping that. Now she needs to make a decision, but it's got nothing to do with you. So here's wishing you and your kids the best, OP. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Raja Already Taken. You think I'm fudging my hours? You're right, here's my real hours. I started working for a non-profit in 2019 after being a volunteer member since 2000. It was supposed to be a temporary for 3 months or so, but the non-profit dragged their feet hiring a permanent replacement. I'm fairly well off, not filthy rich, but debt-free and comfortable, and didn't need the money. So I never billed for my hours after working 15 months full-time. I was supposed to be paid $25 an hour, Canadian dollars currency, but I was willing to work for free if they just found a replacement in a reasonable time. They were pressuring me for an invoice, so I finally invoiced for 40 hours a week for 15 months, and it was about high 60,000s. They were livid for a variety of reasons I didn't understand. They accused me of lying about my hours because I was a new father and my wife had gone back to work after maternity leave, and there's no way I could have worked that much. When I told them I had my son in daycare instead of staying at home with him, they sarcastically said, "Now you know what it's like to work an actual job like the rest of us." They were mad that I wasn't volunteering my time anymore like I used to, but I insisted I was and that my billed time was only for the TB Bingo fundraisers and not for any other non-profit activities. They didn't believe me. I tried to tell them my hours were actually more than I billed for, and my hourly rate is greatly reduced compared to what I normally charge for all the work I was doing: IT, e-commerce, web design, marketing, HR, operations, bookkeeping, TV production, etc. But they said they didn't care about the rate reduction. They insisted that I charge my normal rates for my actual hours and then deduct 10 hours a week for volunteering. This was about 10 times more hours than any of them volunteer for. Okay, bet. I started charging them $40 to $125 per hour depending on the task. I recorded all my tasks and hours in great detail. I charged for any time I spent doing what was normally volunteer work for the nonprofit. Then I finally deducted 10 hours a week. I was billing an average of 50 hours a week after the volunteer hours were deducted. I also took the opportunity to start hiring more people under me on their dime so I could work way less than I did in the first 15 months, but still get paid the same if not more. They couldn't say anything else because it was exactly what they asked for. I was billing $1,000 a week before malicious compliance and then about $3,000 a week after malicious compliance, which I started trimming back down closer to $1,000 a week after cutting my own hours. These guys kept doubling down and accusing me of incompetence and fraud over the next year and a half that I continued working, but I didn't care anymore. They turned my passion into a crappy job that I didn't need, so I stayed until all my amazing employees were hopefully set up for success and wrote that nonprofit out of my life for good. I didn't feel any guilt over being paid for my time with them because I had raised more money for them in 30 months, 30 million gross, about 20 million net, than they had raised in the 100 years before then. Well, OP, they wanted to keep the accounts clear and put everything on the table, and you charged them like you should have. It's on them. Now they need to pay up. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.